Welcome back to Piece of Work. I'm Danielle Tantone, and today I'm joined by Evan Cudworth, who is, as far as anyone can tell, the world's first and only party coach. We're going to learn about what that means. And he believes partying will save humanity. A nerdy U Chicago graduate who came up in the underground rave and music scenes, alongside his own struggles with validation, alcohol, and substances in the post-pandemic chaos, he created The Party Within, a 7-step framework for high-achieving adults who've been sold the lie that optimization and fun are opposites. Can't wait to learn more and dive into this conversation. Thanks for being here, Evan.
Thanks for having me, Danielle. Let's party.
Yeah, let's party. So, a party coach. Okay, so first of all, I know from looking at your website and reading through some of your materials that this does not mean like a party planner. We're not talking about events. We're talking about something a little different, but I love your use of the word party. I love the meanings of words and how we can play with them, and I love how you're doing that. Can you explain a little bit about how this came to be?
Of course. So to start with, I love the meanings of words too. And I'm not necessarily trying to redefine party, but the word party means a lot of different things already, right?
For
And
sure.
so what I love to start with is the word party is actually a contronym in that it
Hmm.
means its own opposite. So
Interesting.
etymology of party, like anyone listening to this, think of party. What does it mean to you? Maybe you think of a birthday party, a child's get together. Maybe you think a rave or a thing like that,
Drugs, alcohol.
or alcohol. But a party, we have a political party, we have a hunting party, and party actually partir to split, right? So the idea that there's a split off from something normal, but then once you have that split, there's this new belonging and creates this new identity inside of that split. And so the idea that the word itself means both to split and to come together at the same time, I think is a good way to start because the word is a paradox. And when people ask me, what am I trying to do? Am I trying to get people to party more? What do I want? I honestly, the party is the coach. So whatever you're working on in your therapy, in your relationships with alcohol, with substances, if you are simply staying up in your head and you're not in the arena of life, you are you're not participating. So I define party is to participate. You
That
are
is so
participating.
interesting and so deep. My mind is also adding a whole bunch of different things because I speak French fluently as well. And so partir in French is to leave, but
Hey,
then also to be part of something, to be so it's very fascinating. I love also I'm into those paradoxes and those different meanings of words too. Even my memoir is called Piece of Work. We're all a piece of work, a work in progress, and a work of art. And then there's so many different things that come with that, just the word work, but I love it. Okay, so
yeah,
how did you settle on tell us a little bit about your background and how you decided to be a party coach and what you do exactly as a party coach?
yeah. So I'm one of those people that I have mostly loved to party throughout my life. Although, again, grew up a pretty nerdy kid, a classical musician, a cellist.
Wow,
But
that's awesome. I just attended my daughter's 4th grade orchestra concert last night. She plays the
oh,
cello.
I
She plays it, it's not her forte. She is not gonna
yeah,
become a cellist. Let's just say that. But
yeah,
anyway, that's really
yeah.
cool. Sorry to
Um,
interrupt.
no, it's beautiful, and let's return to music because it's a really important, I think, tool. The idea of harmony and being a part of an orchestra versus a soloist. We can get into that and social life, but the long and short of it is, I'm someone who I think needed attention in a
Mhm.
lot of ways, but also loved to be on stage. I was an actor and musician, but also when I discovered partying, it was like this, it was switched where we were all on stage together. And when I got to college and I was dancing on tables at my fraternity, or when I would go to my first raves and festivals, it was like we were all on stage together. And this idea that my ego that needed to be filled up so much could suddenly become a part of this
Yeah,
collective, I thought was just like a really beautiful thing. And also I ADHD, I've had
same.
addictions of every single kind, from alcohol to cocaine to scrolling to you name it. And the party scene became a place where I could, one, either use those substances and not be isolated, or two, just gave me a place that I had the opportunity. I did 2 years fully sober and went to parties and festivals all around the world and was able to fully be myself and party without any substances or alcohol.
So
And
cool.
so, long and short of it, the party coach idea came out of the pandemic. I was working in music in Los Angeles, and when I saw what the lockdowns did to myself and my friends and to humanity, I said, "There's people don't want to be lectured on loneliness. People don't want to be lectured on you need to go connect. But if I can talk about parties and the many different kinds of parties, I don't have the right way. There's all different ways to do it. But partying will save humanity because it cuts through all of the kind of lecturing and finger wagging that the wellness industry does to us."
I love that. And I just listened to my latest podcast, which dropped today. And I say I love that all the time, but I really do love that. It is so cool. I need to come up with a different line though.
I love that.
It's a work in progress, right? That is so cool. And like I said, so deep. So, what do you do as a party coach? What does that mean in practical speaking?
Yeah. So the three prongs of how I will connect with people. The first is there are some events. I've hosted many events in Los Angeles. I'm here in Chicago. We have an event venue here that will do Sunday parties that are typically alcohol free, but maybe THC licensed and things like that. So there's some of that. But the majority of what I'm doing is one, I'm creating content. Just talking about these topics, and I do a lot of TikTok and Instagram, and I speak
Very
on
cool.
it. But I get to talk about partying and get people thinking about that idea. But the core of my business is as a party coach, I help people like refresh and redefine their social lives. So I have this 7-stage process called the Party Within, which is essentially a journey from a consumption based to a creator based social life. So instead of thinking I need to consume alcohol, substances, or even vibes or content. A lot of people are going to social events and they're going to capture content or they need to be seen there. This is a switch from there's a party within all of us. I help people find out what that is for them. It's going to be different for every single human and how to refresh that process at any stage in your life, whether you're 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, you're going to have to reinvent what party means to you and what that party within is.
I'm just smiling because you keep saying words that are like so connected to the work that I do. The word refresh even is the first step of my
Yeah.
little framework that I created. But I want to hear more about your framework. What's the 7-step
Yeah.
process?
So this process has roots in probably alchemy and other similar like 7-step processes where you're
Mhm.
breaking things down, but getting
Mhm.
them into their component parts, figuring out how they move back together, meld them back together, and you have something very different that arrives in the end.
Yeah.
The first couple stages are detoxify, and I call it make peace with ghosts, which is this idea that we all have these ghosts of our past. And
Mhm.
I'd say the most toxic drug that I see being used right now is nostalgia,
Mm.
and especially millennials, but even on either sides of that, people are just obsessed with how things were 20 years ago. And people are just consuming this idea that the nostalgia is going to save us. And there's nothing
Interesting.
wrong with that as an ignition, but I'm very much in the future, in the present and future. Like, what are we
Mm.
creating? What are we doing right now? And so then the future processes are getting into the body. I just have some of them. It's called a wellness bender, which is a 21-day habit challenge that includes whole foods diet, cold showers, dancing for 3 minutes every day, calling up your friends, having conversations, real conversations, complimenting strangers, things like this that get you out of your head into the world. And then the last stages are actually creating your own tribe and building a party or a ceremony that is repeatable. So this can be anything from a walk club, a book club. I've had people start moon circles, anything that for you is going to be a sustainable, regenerative party that you're contributing into the world.
Mm. That is awesome. Very cool. I have so many questions and so many different places we could go with this. It's fascinating. I don't know. What do you think? What
Well,
do you
I'd love
want to
before
share?
we got on with the word resilience, I would love to dip in a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, what has What does that word mean to you today? How are you practicing resilience right now?
I think it means more than just getting back to where you were. My process, I call it the 5R resilience method. It's a 5-step process, and the last step is rise. So you come to it from a higher place. So you're bouncing back better. You're rising up each time. So my process is refresh, renew, release, reconnect, and rise. And I'm working on a book that's currently being edited and it'll be published in the fall, probably called Resilient. And then I'm working on a couple of different coaching packages and stuff. But the way I think of resilience is we talk about it even in physical health. You need to stretch your muscles. It's the stretch. It's the things that happen to us don't break us when we're resilient. They bend us, they stretch us, they grow us. So that's what I think about. I think about it all the time. It's not just a buzzword. It's literally so important. I'm a full-time nurse. I'm an author, I'm a coach, and I think resilience is the thing that like I said, if you don't have it, you'll break when things happen to you, and things are inevitably going to happen that aren't what you planned, whether it's a breakup or a diagnosis or just even having a baby. I work in OB nursing with new moms and dads it's a happy day, but it's still a huge change. And so that's long answer, long, not very articulate answer.
Oh, it's beautiful. And you have resilience, like things like adaptability come up a lot.
Hmm.
And
For sure.
I feel like there's a lot of messages out there in the world right now, at least on my TikTok feed, about like boundaries and
Oh,
cut
that you
people off
touched on another oh,
and
you have so touched on a nerve with me. Yes.
and do what's best for you and be strong.
Oh,
And I love that there's so much beauty in that. And I do think there's a lot of people that need to hear those messages. But what I see is a huge breakdown in social trust, especially among younger generations. They don't
yes.
trust each other when they go out because everyone we need to take responsibility for this. I'm done with blaming anyone older. I'll be 40 this year. I take responsibility for how the world is. All
Mm,
right. And I'm probably not going to have kids, but I want my friends that have kids, I want them to grow up in a world where they trust each other and they have places where they get to go to be resilient with each other, to be messy with each other, to not be in this panopticon of cringe where everything is, "Ugh, I don't want to look that way," or I don't trust this person, or let's protect this person's boundaries when humans are tribal animals. And yes, it's actually good that this tribe wants something different from that tribe. But to break it down to a super individualistic level, I think is having the opposite effect that a lot of people want, which is they're
yep.
not feeling resilient. They're feeling on an island by themselves. They're not able to go out and dance with their friends because they're so fragile.
Yeah. I see, I do love that. And you touched on something that I have talked about a lot. I don't know if you actually knew that I've talked about it a lot or just happened to just felt it or whatever, but boundaries I think is such a double-edged sword because I think we call someone toxic and then just throw them out of our life, whether it's family, whether it's friendships, whether it's dating. Online dating is such a crazy thing. It's like someone says the wrong thing in the wrong moment and you just like, okay, there's another one. Everything's disposable. And I didn't grow up with that. First of all, my parents were divorced after 24 years of marriage, but they never disposed of each other. I was already an adult when they got divorced, but I grew up knowing that family is family, even though my parents chose to divorce. And that was like the example that I saw. My grandma, my dad's mom, still considered my mom her daughter till the day she died. And I also moved a lot as a child, and I don't know where I'm going with this, but like I'd move. We moved schools a lot of times by the time I was in high school, and so I was very adept at like making new friends. But I also really learned the value of keeping in touch. And this was before social media. I'm more than 10 years older than you. So we had to keep in touch with somebody to keep knowing what they're doing. And we had to reach out. And I know I'm talking very circuitously today, but I totally agree. I think that we are far too quick in this society to just call people toxic and throw them out the door instead
Right.
of learning that we are all a piece of work, but we're also a work in
Yes.
progress and we're also a work of art and we're also human. You're not perfect, I'm not perfect, and we mess up. And as parents especially, I am a parent. I have 3 daughters and we don't get a rule book. It's not always easy. Parents get it wrong so much of the time, but I can't even believe how often I've seen kids, adult kids, basically ending cutting off all contact with their parents, going no contact with their parents because they're toxic or whatever. I think that is such a devastating thing that we're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've not been in those situations. I think Schopenhauer, the philosopher, basically says like every philosopher is basically just a result of their own biases.
True.
Like, and
Yeah,
so
your own experience,
yeah,
your
our
own.
own experiences are so many biases. And of course, like I'm somebody who found a lot of love and connection in the party scene. I'm going to go become a party coach. Right. And
Totally.
people who had terrible experiences and maybe got assaulted at parties are going to be like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah, why would you
And
do it?
so I fully accept that people are going to have different experiences. Learning that I'm not going to resonate with everyone has been the hardest thing for me because
Same,
I
same. Because you
have
just
this,
you want everyone to love you.
yeah. And so that's there. But coming back to the resilience, there's been a lot of loss and death and suicide and sickness and addiction that I have been witness to in
Yeah.
my journey to this planet. And I lost my mom in my early 20s to cancer, and she was someone who was so resilient.
Sorry.
And I see people moving through one of the things that helps me maintain resilience, and I talk about this a lot, is I'm somebody that often feels like I need to process things, like, off alone. To having a deep
Mhm.
conversation or, like, cuddling with people or being like, that is not the way that I like to process things, and so that can lead to one of 2 things. One, that can lead to maybe some healing, but some isolation, and that sometimes led to drug or alcohol use, but party scene for me provided a place where I had this community of other people a lot of other people who are also grieving and dealing with
Mm,
emotions and things and big heavy things. And we could be in the place and we could dance and we could stim and we could be healed by these music and the sound. And I had a place that I could go 7 days a week that could always accept all of the chaotic things that I was.
yeah,
And I think that's beautiful.
it is.
And somebody else will look at that and say, these places are toxic pits that turn people into addicts and
Mm,
bad. And I say, I've seen, having spent a lot of time in recovery and around people like this, the alternative is a lot of people end up make happy lives and move things out of
yeah,
there. And when you isolate people, they end up dead.
yeah. That is so cool that you have been able to find a way to party without the drugs and alcohol being the center of it. I shared on one of my recent podcast episodes that my 17-year-old daughter has struggled with drug and alcohol abuse, and she has recently gone through recovery. She's 6 months sober. Yeah,
Beautiful.
she's doing great, and
Yeah.
but one of the things that we found after she went away to a residential place, but then she came back, and we found this thing called Full Circle that is basically it's for teens and young adults, but it's a lot like what you described. Basically, it's a party, but it's a 12-step program. It's an enthusiastic 12-step program, and I what I loved most about it is that it keeps the party but gets rid of the substances. And so these kids have a place to go and a social life and a social circle that with music and raves. They did a rave in the desert a couple weeks ago. They do
So cool.
get-togethers. They stay out late. There was a
It's
New Year's
called Full
party.
Circle.
Full Circle. Check it
I don't
out.
know if I've heard of this. This is
It
so
is
cool. Yeah.
amazing. You might even wanna get involved.
Yeah.
It's and maybe you could because I've wondered if there would be something like that for adults who are in
Yes.
recovery, and I haven't really found anything. So I think that this is fascinating because I have because I started talking about, so I've talked about resilience, I've talked a little bit about divorce, I've talked about breast cancer. My podcast has kind of turned into a hodgepodge of my experience, basically, and what I have encountered in my life. Like you said, it comes from my own lens. But one of the subjects that I've landed on a lot because of my journey these last few years is recovery and addiction and stuff. So I really do love that I love the idea of still being able to party, because that's one of the things with whether it's a kid or whether it's an adult. A lot of the reasons why people use substances is to fill a void, is to self-medicate, and because of a deeper problem. But a second reason is simply because it's fun and it allows you to feel good and be more yourself, and all those things. So if you can take the dangerous substances out and still keep that fun, is so powerful, I think.
Yes. The word fun it's also quite difficult because we actually don't know. Science doesn't have a really good definition of what fun is.
Oh, interesting.
They
It's probably different for everybody.
It's quite different for people, and at different seasons of our life, it could be
Mm.
different. I'm self-identify as a nerd. I it's used to be the most fun thing for me was a library on a Friday night with my books, right? And then boom, one day I wake up and it's instead I want to be in a crowded club with a bunch of people. And the relearning to have fun with books has been a big journey for me the last couple of years. But it's I think it's like faith that fun cannot be defined, I think
Mm.
is important, and why I don't promise people that I can help them have fun. Just why I don't think a priest can promise you that they'll provide you faith, but I can I get asked about fun a lot, and I think it's
Yeah.
this secret energy source that wellness industry and politics and a lot of the engines of what drives social media these days is secretly like anti-fun or
Mhm.
doesn't want it to exist. And people still will find ways to do it. And it will
Right.
always seep through and it will
Yeah.
always move out. But I think and COVID on top of it, there's just people want to have fun again.
Yeah. And I think what you've said and what I've seen in your content is that fun and seriousness and depth don't have to be adverse things. They're not opposed to each other. To me, recording this podcast is fun. And then the fact that it's going to be out there and then I'm going to take clips from it and put it on social media is fun and cool. And the fact that we're talking on Zoom across the country and we didn't even know each other, and somehow you found me and we are so similar in our views, and yet we're coming from a different place to it, and I think it's fun. Like, how is that not fun?
Yes. And there's a tweet that I really like. It's talking about one of the reasons to party or to socialize to be out there is it increases the surface area of luck to hit you.
Love that. Increases the
And
surface area of luck to hit you.
people are always like, Evan, how did you end up there? I lived 20 lives. I've gotten to live, I grew up in Chicago, went to school here. I landed a job. I convinced them to move me to New York. I worked in Rockefeller Center, and then I got a
Wow.
job in Shanghai. I bumped around there. I had a startup in Cleveland, and then I had this
Wow.
acid trip at Burning Man. And I moved to LA, and then I worked in music, and I worked and I was also an actor, and I've done all those things. And then I started
Neat.
TikToking, and then I had a reality show, and like all of these things. Everyone was like, "How does that happen?" I was like, "I just show up. I show up, and I show up when I even feel like I don't belong." But the surface area for luck to hit me is really high.
I agree completely, and I have never put it that way, but that's so important. You gotta put yourself out there. You gotta be in places where you're gonna meet people and where you're gonna make those connections. And then when you make a connection, you have to you have to take an action.
Yes. Well,
Thinking about
it carries a lot of risk too. And I wonder, and tying this back to resilience,
yeah.
I've learned to be resilient because sometimes my showing up has caused me to burn out. It's caused me to be in bad, I won't call them toxic relationships, but I've been in relationships or partnerships or things that looking back, I was like, oh my gosh, what was I thinking? Right.
Mhm.
But because of those experiences, I, growth for me is an upward spiral of often I'm returning to the same lessons, but I'm a little bit higher each time as I
Yes.
cycle
Yes.
upwards.
Yeah.
And that's resilience to me, is the ability to keep spiraling upwards instead of, I think earlier on in my life, I would stumble down the stairs and I would push the boulder back up again and I'd stumble down the stairs again. And now the tools that I have allow me to spiral upwards.
That's a great analogy too. That ties in right with mine, but it's a different way of saying it, spiraling upward. So earlier you said, a couple things you said that I wrote down. I've been taking notes. I love this, but you said you focused on you need to process alone in isolation, and so I would assume you would identify as an introvert
I don't, I'm a
or an
Scorp,
extroverted
I'm
introvert.
a I'm a double Scorpio.
So you got a
So
little bit of everything in you.
I've got a lot, it's just, I need to constantly be transforming. And
Mm.
that, that requires me to go to retreats, right? And go to festivals and be in relate and be there. But I know that I will not receive what I need from that experience until I have processed it.
I hear you.
But
Great. I like
I
that too.
can't stay because I can read forever and sit and just process and think and overthink, and I will go manic and I will
Mm.
become anxious because I will try to over process things. So I don't know. I'd call myself an ambivert.
Yeah, I'm the same. I've always identified as an extrovert. I've always been an outgoing, bubbly person, but I also manage to sit and write a book, and I also need to process alone. I like to walk. I like to think. I need a couple hours in the morning to myself before everyone else is awake. So I agree that even though anybody who knows me would assume I'm a 100% extrovert, and I do like to process things out loud, even in an argument I also need the time alone. But I move very quickly to action, and that's partly my nature and partly a learned response and a learned success tool because I think you can overanalyze and just never do anything. At some point, you've got to try it out. And action breeds clarity, I think, in
Yeah.
most things.
Yes. Does this resonate with, this is just coming to me too. Right, we're both coaches. I think one of the reasons why it's maybe a more difficult for me to experience that transformation in groups is because I'm actively, either consciously or subconsciously, transforming the people around me. I'm
Mm,
very concerned about how they're experiencing this thing. And I
so true.
love to spend time with people and I'm really concerned with the group and everyone's there.
Yes.
And if I'm in the group, I'm more concerned with what they're getting out of it than what I am.
Yeah.
And then when I leave, I can figure out what I got.
Yeah. Definitely. I do the same thing. I think there's maybe something to the fact that we're both led to coaching is that we probably have some kind of an innate coach in us that just that's how I think. I think of it as a helper in terms of yeah, what other people are getting from this. Absolutely.
So a journey for me has been to move from a fixer, someone who would try to fix things where I wasn't asked,
Yes,
which would get me in
I've done
trouble,
that. Mhm.
to being better, if not perfect. I'm much better at waiting until my services are requested.
Yeah.
But yeah, what's that journey been like for you?
It's hard. We talked about that on the podcast that I just listened to this morning. As parents and as a coach, I've found myself doing that in friendships where, yeah, you don't ask, would you like some ideas or would you like my advice? You kind of just jump in. And what I said on the last podcast was some of it comes from an insecurity actually when I think about it is that like I'm afraid they're going to say no, so I don't even offer them the option. I just offer my services or offer my advice and uh so yes, I'm very much a work in progress on that because as a nurse, you're part of my job is educating the new parents and just offering advice and not diagnoses, but a treatment for the issue at hand. And I very much identify with being a helper and being an action taker and just jumping in and taking action. And that is not always welcome. So what was your question? How has the journey been? Like I said, I'm in the part of the journey where I'm recognizing that it's a very real thing that currently I have struggled with. And it's hard when you feel like you have something that can help someone. It's almost like Christian people who are like
Yeah.
wanting to share the gospel. It's like to them, it's like they're not trying to be pushy or annoying. They really believe that they have something that everyone needs and that it's life-changing and you need it desperately, and it's hard to hold it back because when you feel like you have something that can help somebody. So it's a constant battle, and I
Yes.
as somebody who does tend to talk first and think later, I definitely have grown a lot in that, and especially in the workplace and with my kids, I've learned to take a breath, listen. Part of it is that 5-hour resilience method. It's that first step, that refresh is just like you refresh a computer screen. Turn it off, turn it back on, take a breath, pause, don't just immediately react. And that is not my default at all. So that's
Yes. That's a big part of recovery language, like
mm,
pause when agitated. My first thought is usually
not,
the correct one. The humbleness of that I can be a coach, but in some ways I can't manage my own life, or that when I'm purely left to my own self will, that even if the decisions themselves are rational, I have a lot of evidence that when stacked on top of each other, if I'm just trying to do everything by myself with my own will, that the cumulative result of those decisions is usually not good for me, and it's definitely not good for other people.
yeah. I was thinking as you were talking about being a party coach and I was writing down a bunch of notes and stuff, that it might be fun, and this is a little bit impromptu, if we would show an example on this podcast, like if you would coach me.
I would love that.
I don't know
Yeah.
how we can come up with this scenario, or if you could just if you wanna just jump in, like how would
Yeah.
yeah, what could we show me an example of how that would go down.
Yeah. I one of the first questions I always love is just what's working and not working in your social life right now?
Oh, that's a deep question. I feel really good right now because honestly, about a month ago, I was really struggling. I had explainably and unexpectedly lost a couple, specifically one dear friendship. Like my friend, a girlfriend, just stopped talking to me. And I really didn't, I really still don't 100% know why. I think it maybe stems from some of what we just discussed, where maybe I overstepped or was too pushy, or I don't know truly. And it was very hurtful. Like because I don't know. I think I'm pretty good at, I've been divorced 3 times. I've been in lots of romantic relationships. And when those end, I'm pretty good at bouncing back pretty quickly and just coming to terms with why it didn't work and feeling okay. But for some reason, this friendship breakup was harder than, so that was just one friendship, but that wasn't the first time that this has happened in my life. And so I've felt like I did some thinking through all my history and I'm like, what am I doing? I must be doing something that's pushing people away. Or maybe it's just that I'm growing and what is it? And so I have felt sad about losing friendships that were once close, or just not having the type of friendships or the depth of friendships that I would like to have.
Yeah. Beautiful. So, yeah, feeling like there's depth, like intimacy or depth that's falling away as a result of who knows what that
Mhm.
cause is. When you love a party, what are the takeaways that you love about that party? Is it the connections or is it the letting go? Is it feeling free? What do you love about the feeling of a party?
Again, I'm trying really hard to visualize a party, and it's interesting. I think, and this is on the fly, but I've had some conversations with some friends recently because I have a friend who's really introverted, but yet loves being in crowded places. We were at a concert recently and I was like, "That's so interesting that you really like alone time, but you love being here." And he's like, "I can people watch and I can be not seen. I can be," and I was like, That is interesting because that is the opposite for me. I like to be seen and I like to be known and I like to connect with other people. So even though I'm outgoing and love to be on stage. I also have a background with musical theater and a lot of the performing. Even though I love that kind of being seen, I really like when we see eye to eye and somebody sees me and connects with me and then I see them. I don't know if I answered your
Yeah.
question or
Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah. So there's what that moment of deeper connection that we can get at a party. Typically,
Yeah.
maybe in the room, it's boom, we zero
Yeah.
in.
That you
There's
connect with
something.
one person, even though there's all this other stuff happening.
Yeah. So
But I also like the dancing and I like the music, and I guess it depends on what type of party we're talking about.
of course, and remember, we're talking about a word that's a paradox, right? We're talking about a dialectic, essentially, right?
But I remember something that's very interesting is that as much as I'm an outgoing party, life of the party type of person, I remember in my younger years, like being very young in my teens and 20s, and going to like a club or somewhere where, and absolutely hating, being miserable, like being bored at a club where it's dark and the music is just that uh, like old, not EDM, but like
Yeah, like
techno.
techno. Yep. Yep.
That just I wanted to crawl out of my skin. It was not pleasant at all. It used to be smoky back then too, and I didn't really like that. Now you can't smoke inside, so that's better. But so it's interesting that somebody who likes music and fun and laughter and light, I don't like. I didn't like that. I felt very alone there,
Yeah.
almost depressed. It was very weird.
Yeah. So yeah, we're just again sticking together some of these patterns, this desire for this intimacy, but some of it seems to be falling off for some reasons when we're in a party environment and there's not that opportunity to connect, when there is just like this monotony and loss of that sense of one-on-one connection, that there's something there. What is your relationship to a dissolved ego or becoming a part of something bigger?
I don't know what my relationship to that is. I definitely identify with that. I've heard of that. I
Yeah.
try to do that. I don't know how
Yeah.
successful I am.
Yeah. So this is it, right? Are you familiar with that phrase? And they used it in White Lotus, I think, this last season. But are we the drop of wave in the ocean, or are we the whole ocean? Right?
Mm,
And
love
that's a
that.
lot about
Yes.
spirituality, right?
Yep.
And I think sometimes life is giving us the experience of, if we've had these intimate relationships and maybe those are falling away, is there an opportunity to become the ocean? What is so boring and scary about being a part of something where
Part of
we're
the one. Yeah.
part of the one? Yeah, what scares that? What's scary about
I
that?
don't think anything does. And I think,
Yeah,
like I said at the beginning, I feel like we're talking about this after I've already kind of
yeah.
evolved and worked through it. But I think what you're saying is what I've been learning is that it's okay. Like I think like letting go of all those expectations of how people are gonna be and what role they're gonna play in your life and how
Yeah.
things are gonna play out is really important, and just
Have you
realizing
read Women Who Run with Wolves?
no,
Yeah. Okay, write
no.
this down. Oh, yeah.
Alright.
I think this might be cool for you.
Okay, I
It's
will
kind
check
of
them out
me. You're familiar with the hero's journey
for
stuff,
sure.
right? So Joseph Campbell wrote it, which is a
Mhm.
masculine version of how do we find purpose in our place.
Right.
And this woman wrote, I think it's called Women Who Run with Wolves, but it's,
Okay.
it's the feminine version of that, which I relate to a lot more, which is
Interesting.
this kind of like the wild woman, like needing to be free. But there's not really a linear journey to this, that there is you might call it like Dionysian, this like primal desire to dissolve the ego and become a part of, to be wild and to let ourselves go and to be accepted into that, that sometimes the world is inviting us to not have a linear direction of I'm
Mhm.
trying to grow here, but actually to come back to I'm just a part of nature. And it's
Yeah.
okay to love exactly where I'm at and not grow at all and
Yes.
just be.
That's good. Yeah, that's good. I definitely struggle with that because I'm a very even though I'm a very spiritual person, I'm also very type A, like
Yep.
goal oriented, and I have a lot of big goals and aspirations and things that I want to accomplish in many different areas at the same time.
Yeah.
And so when I have a day, I'm very in tune with my own energies up and down. And when I have a day where I'm maybe not feeling quite as energetic, I really struggle with it, but I have to learn to just be okay with that and be like, okay, today I'm going to do a cold plunge. Maybe I'm going to maybe go for a walk and I maybe won't get down the 50 things on my to do list today. And that's okay.
Yeah. So my last piece of the party coaching would be is ultimately my ask of you would be, can you go help somebody else feel what we were just trying to feel? Help. Maybe that's literally finding some, they have day dance parties, right? Like an
Yeah.
ecstatic dance, right? And instead of going, what can I get out of it? Going there and figure, is there somebody else who's anxious or feels there?
Oh, that's it.
Helping that
Very cool.
person let go of their ego and become a part of, become the wolf. Helping them do it will help you do it too.
So true.
But when you help somebody else, it makes it more concrete for you. Because if you just try to get it for yourself, it'll be a little bit tough. But that would be my invitation for you is help somebody else let go
That's
and see what
awesome.
that feels like.
That's awesome. And I do tell other people to do that. And it's interesting that, and I think I do it automatically, but that's a good advice. All right. A personal question for you. You
Yeah.
said you probably won't have kids. I'm
Yeah.
curious about that. I'm curious about yeah, if you wouldn't mind sharing. But if it's too personal, no, just let me know and I'll shut up. But
No, of
I like you.
course. Yeah. There's many those when I saw other people just desiring that as a concept, as a thing, it was not something that was a desire. So I am gay as well. I think that's part of it. I love kids. And recently I like them a lot more. I think I was closed off in the past, but this is where we can get into the spiritual stuff. But I have had experiences and through a lot of prayer, I'm pretty sure of what my purpose is here. And I'm really sure that I'm living it.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's the path for everyone, for sure.
Yeah. And that I feel this radical responsibility for all the children, right?
Very cool.
And I don't know if I would feel that as much if I had to focus that on one. And so I think that's why evolution creates different types of people is that there is this more shared collectivist element to what I feel.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
also, you never know. Life is
I completely
you
never
never know.
know. Yes. Very open to all of that.
You might meet someone who desires to have your own children, and that might become a possibility. There's all sorts of ways. Nice. Anything else you wanna leave us with? We've been talking for a little bit now. I do wanna say what we said before we hit record, that it's hilarious that I'm sitting here in a tank top, it's 80 some degrees outside, and you're wearing a cap
Yes.
and a long sleeve shirt buttoned up to the top.
Yes, it is. It's always a beautiful day in Chicago. I love this city.
I was born in Chicago, by the way, outside of
Oh,
Chicago.
nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
small world.
Yeah, for anyone who's listening to this, I love the world. I guess I'll close with this, one of my other favorite quotes. Our natural state is ecstatic wonder. We should not settle for anything less.
I love that. Our natural state is ecstatic wonder. We should not settle for anything less. Whose quote is that? Is
So
that
it's
you?
like Alan Watts, it gets appropriated a lot, but I think he stole it from this group of students down in Florida who are creating some spiritual thing. But I like that because no matter where you're at in life, you could be going through cancer or death, or you just got a huge raise or whatever. If you can meet that moment with ecstatic wonder,
I couldn't agree
It's
more.
the best.
Yeah.
And I almost never wake up with any other feeling for
Yeah.
a long time because I don't know, the experiences in my life gifted me that ecstatic wonder. And I'm really grateful for that. And that's what partying, I believe, is a very tangible way for us to experience. Is it the only way? No. But if you're listening to this and you're stuck and you maybe been doing the therapy or the fitness or whatever, and it's just not working for you, I offer there's so many different ways to engage in party culture. That ecstatic wonder can be the fuel for whatever's next for you.
I think that's a great thing to think about as you go toward the next thing in your day or in your week. I try to do that even at the hospital when I get been floated to the ED to be a patient sitter, where I'm literally tasked with watching somebody who might be suicidal, might be just a danger, and I think, what am I here for? Like, there's a reason why I was put right here to be with this person right now in this moment. And it helps something that might be a difficult, boring task that you have to do become something wonderful. Yeah.
Yes. Beautiful.
So, where can we find you? Tell us about your socials and your website. And
Sure. So you can find my website, partycoach.me. And then if you search Party Coach on TikTok or Instagram, you usually find me dancing.
I'm going to have to follow
Just
you. That's
silly
awesome.
stuff. Yeah. I try to keep it pretty light, but it also gets really deep and crazy too. Again, a lot of Scorpio energy flying around.
That's
So
amazing. If you find yourself in the Phoenix area,
yeah,
you'll have to reach out. And if I come to Chicago, I'm going to
yeah.
find you too. It's been great talking with you.
Thank you so much, Danielle. Yeah.
Sometimes I think of putting this podcast on the shelf again because I have so many other things on my plate. But conversations like this bring me back to why it's so important. I love getting to meet people and hearing different perspectives, and that just open up my mind and my heart to this vast universe that we live in. So thank you.
And to that, party
All
on.
right. If you liked this episode, share it with somebody who might benefit with it. Sorry, that didn't come out right. Thanks for listening. Till next time.